What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today we're talking about the New York Giants in our 2021 NFL season preview series. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel and want more sports content like this, please consider subscribing and give me your Giants takes down below. This is a really interesting team that has the potential to be a kind of a breakout team overall, but there's a lot of question marks that come with that. You're leaning on a lot of asterisks if you think this team's going to make the playoffs, but it's in the realm of possibility. So I'm excited to talk about the Giants with you today. Let's start by talking about the win range, 6 to 10 wins. And I mean, I love Joe Judge, but if they have 6 wins this year, you're going to start hearing some rumblings. The expectations need to start being risen up a little bit for Joe Judge, who again I am a big fan of, but this organization's got to start making some progress, and they did a lot this offseason to try to make this team competitive in one of the worst divisions in football, right? You re-sign Leonard Williams, you bring in Kenny Golladay, you draft Kadarius Toney. They are armoring up. They are trying to make moves to become the best team in this division. So 6 wins would definitely be a big disappointment. But on the flip side, I could see this team going 10-7, which would be a step in the right direction. And for that to happen, I think that would signal that Daniel Jones was better and that they'd probably stick around with him. And obviously, I didn't put in the win range because I don't know how much of a step forward Daniel Jones can take. But if he takes a Josh Allen type of leap, or even half of that, this team could potentially be 11-12 wins. But I'm just not entirely sold on that. I think Jones is pretty good. I think he's solid, I should say, but expecting a huge Josh Allen type of leap is probably setting yourself up for disappointment. So 6 to 10 wins. My projected win total 7 wins, so I had him going 7-10 in my way too early season preview video. And obviously, I'm going to be redoing that before we get to the beginning of the NFL season and once we finish this preview series. This is a team that I like a lot on paper. Like, the defense is really solid, and I think it only got better with the guy on your screen, Aziz Ogilari. We'll talk about him in a little bit. And I like the playmakers around that offense. That skill position group is fantastic, but a lot of question marks across the offensive line. And, what does Daniel Jones prove to be this year? Like, this is just like the Dolphins have done with Tua. This is the make or break year in a lot of ways. You have to figure out who this guy is. Can he be a franchise quarterback? We're going to find out. So that is my realistic goal. Figure out if Daniel Jones is a franchise QB. It's not necessarily totally fair, just given how not great that offensive line is. But the way I see it, ultimately I think it's Nate Solder starting on one of those tackle positions and Andrew Thomas on the other. For the long term, big picture of this team, it's probably Andrew Thomas on the left side, Solder on the right. And because of that, I think it's a pretty solid tackle duo. So, that helps out the passing game and Jones a ton. The interior, I have some question marks. I think Will Hernandez gets back to where he was a couple of years ago. The entire Giants offensive line played pretty bad last year. I remember they had that spat between Joe Judge and their offensive line coach. I remember that was, a big talking point there for a little bit, but obviously he's moved on. This team still is, having some spats. If you saw the training camp video the other day, interesting. This team is in a perplexing spot, to say the least, but I think the tackles will be okay. They need to really figure out left guard and center. Obviously, the retirement of Zach Fulton doesn't help in that area. I was thinking he might become the starting center for this team, but if the offensive line can at least be okay, this is as good an opportunity to put the headlights on Daniel Jones and see what he is, right? Like, you have so many weapons. Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney, John Ross, Kenny Golladay is a big one. Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley catches the ball out of the backfield pretty well. Kyle Rudolph's no slouch, especially as a tight end number 2. So there's an abundance of weapons. This is the year to find out if Daniel Jones is your guy. Reach goal, hey, make the playoffs. And 10 wins might be good enough, right? Let's say the Ryan Fitzpatrick roller coaster doesn't get off the ground. Let's say it's really poor. That offense is struggling in Washington and they just don't hit expectations. And let's say something crazy happens. Maybe the offensive line's not healthy in Dallas, or Dak takes a step backwards, which I don't know if that's going to happen. But maybe that defense is too putrid to overcome and get into the playoffs. So the Giants, if they get to 10, 11 wins, it's certainly in the realm of possibilities. And everything else out of Daniel Jones, I like. Well, everything else out of the offensive line, I really like about this team. And Daniel Jones is a bit of a question mark, but everything else is fantastic. And, a couple of things line up. The O-line plays pretty well, specifically on the interior. Daniel Jones cuts down the turnovers, specifically the fumbles. He handles pressure better. He takes advantage of those weapons. This is definitely a playoff caliber team. Let's talk about those X factors that will help this team get to the playoffs. I'm cheating here. It's the first time I've done this, so I apologize. But the offensive line entirely, right? Like, I don't know what's going on with that tackle position. A lot of people like Matt Pert, but if it comes down to Thomas or Solder, I know Pert's younger, you want to get him, development, in-game action. You got to worry about the here and now. You got to see what Daniel Jones is. So at the expense of Matt Pert's potential development, you need to start Solder and Thomas because those are your two best guys. And like I said, I think Will Hernandez takes a step forward back to where he was a couple years ago. Obviously, losing Fulton kind of hurts this team. I'm really interested by Nick Gates at center. It looks like it's his job now, and then whoever ultimately becomes the starting left guard for this team. But that more so affects Saquon Barkley on the interior. I know Daniel Jones isn't great against pressure, and wherever it comes from, he has some fumble issues and overall just doesn't field it well. So, the interior of the offensive line is a priority in the pass game as well. But I do also worry that the offensive line is going to be so poor that we're talking about Saquon Barkley being, not the same guy after his injury or just a disappointment overall this year. And you look at his talent, he could be the best running back in football. So you need to have the offensive line play pretty well in front of them to do that. So obviously they are a huge X factor for the offense overall. Aziz Ogilari, if not for the knee injury, he is not available at pick 40 overall, second round for the Giants. I mean, that was an absolute steal. But then, right before the draft, injury history, kind of occurrence popped up from back when he was in high school, if memory serves, a long time ago, and he looked great at Georgia. And if he's out on the field, he's edge one for this team. Like, he is the most dominant edge rusher, and that's the one spot this team needs to get better at, right? Like, I love the interior of the defensive line. I beg your pardon. Dexter Lawrence, Danny Shelton, Leonard Williams, all those guys are studs. And Blake Martinez proved to be a pretty good linebacker, but the rest of the linebacking core is a little weak. But because that front line is so good, it hides where, Tay Crowder isn't necessarily a household name, and Blake Martinez finally played some good football. But again, that front line is the strength of the defense. But then you look at the secondary, man, dude, they are loaded. I don't even know where they're going to play these dudes. Like, Julian Love's a combo slot corner safety. Same thing with Xavier McKinney. They signed Adoree Jackson, we'll talk about later. So him and James Bradbury figure to be on the outside. You have Darnay Holmes, who I think would be a really good nickel. Aaron Robinson could play inside or outside. I mean, it's insane. And then you have Jabril Peppers, who is an every down safety. I mean, it's crazy. That secondary is not only good, but it's good and deep. So that, along with a very solid front three of that 3-4 defense, add in Aziz Ogilari. If he can be a productive, not even super efficient, he doesn't need to be all-world or anything. If he can just be an NFL caliber in regards to efficiency, outside linebacker, rushing the passer, this defense is one of the best in the league. And then additionally, you get Patrick Holmes back. I mean, that was a defensive coordinator who should have been fielding head coaching offers considering where the Giants were last year, and I think he definitely will be after this upcoming season. So having him back certainly helps a ton. Aziz Ogilari, if he can just be a quality starter, that defense looks like it has no holes other than maybe the second inside linebacker. But again, you can hide that pretty easily. And our final X factor, Adoree Jackson. This is a guy who, at his best, is so fun to watch. I mean, he's one electric, right? Like, I remember him in special teams at USC. He was just a big play waiting to happen. I used to always wonder if they would use him on the offensive side. Actually getting rumblings that Derek Stingley Jr. might be doing something like that for LSU, and I kind of wish USC did that with Adoree Jackson. But if he's healthy and he's playing good football, that is a very good number 2 corner. And that's opposite of James Bradbury, who emerged as one of the best CBs in the NFL last year. So that tandem could end up being one of the best duos in the NFL. I mean, rivaling that of the Patriots with Stephon Gilmore and J.C. Jackson, the Dolphins with Xavier Howard if they keep him, and Byron Jones. It's that talented. But Adoree Jackson has also been a bit of a roller coaster in regards to injuries, but also his on-field production. He has some good weeks, he has some bad weeks, but if you have James Bradbury as your lockdown guy, and then Adoree Jackson can just be that big play waiting to happen type of dude on the other side. Again, think back to Stephon Gilmore and J.C. Jackson in New England. That really pole vaults this defense into a stratosphere of one of the best in the NFL. But if Jackson struggles, maybe he's not even on the field, then you're relying on Aaron Robinson potentially play on the outside, or you're trying to just plug in the gap with somebody who's just not as talented as Jackson. That could create some problems. Overall, I think the defense is good enough to where I'm stretching a little bit, but Jackson, if all works out, gives them one of the best outside corner duos. And then you have Aaron Robinson, Darnay Holmes, Xavier McKinney, Julian Love, all guys who can play in the nickel. I mean, no fly zone on top of that front three, I should say, and Aziz Ogilari, who I think can make an instant impact. Again, shapes up to be one of the best defenses in the NFL. Games to watch, week 1 against Denver, because these two teams are so similar. They have awesome rosters except for the quarterback position, and they're looking to see what they become. I really shouldn't say awesome because, again, the Giants' offensive line's a huge question mark, but 90% of the roster you look at and say, hey, that is an awesome team to have, but it's Drew Lock versus Daniel Jones or Teddy Bridgewater versus Daniel Jones, and that is what holds those two teams back. They're both looking to make a run and surprise some people, so it all gets started week 1. Obviously a fun matchup to watch there. Week 11 at Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football, and for whatever reason, 2 years in a row now, the Giants have played the Bucs really close, and this comes after the Giants' Week 10 bye. So I'm not picking the Giants per se in this game, but it could get interesting. Obviously, traveling down to Tampa Bay, I think, is the determining factor. If the Giants were at home off of a bye week, I might go for the upset play there. But that's a game, Monday Night Football, a lot of eyes on it. Could be one where the Giants, battle to the end. They keep it close and capture a lot of people's attention as they try to make a playoff run late in the year. So keep your eyes on that game, especially considering the Giants are coming off their bye week. Week 17 at the Chicago Bears. Bears and Giants, kind of similar spots. Outside, looking in, looking for, a big step forward from their quarterback this year. I don't love either one of their offensive lines, so some question marks there. The defense is really solid. I like both their coaches, and they're two teams that, if they, again, are on the outside looking in, they're fighting for a wild card spot, and it could come down to this Week 17 game deciding if the Bears get in over the Giants or vice versa. So obviously, that makes it a game to watch. But that's it for my 2021 New York Giants season preview. Tell me what you think about the G-Men down in the comment section. How many wins do they have? Who are some X factors? What are some games you look forward to watch? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I respond to every comment, so let's talk about the Giants down below. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel and want more sports content like this, please consider subscribing. That's going to do it for today's vid. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.